It's North Stars Ball. Going to talk about the history of secret rares. Or now North Stars Ball. We're going to talk about the history of secret rares. Because after the reveal of Baby Hashiak, there has been an uproar in the community where they complain more than usual.
Unrest.
There is extra salt in the sea of DBS.
There's always got to be something.
There's always something, but there is extra salt because the secret rare didn't win you the game. It wasn't playable in every deck that was blue.
How dare.
A card was not like another card. We just can't all have one card be printed 60 times to run in your deck, besides Metacooler and Cybermen. So we're going to talk about secret rares because secret rares have always been kind of the chase card of a set, starting in set 2. They have always been, I'd say, a complement to like a strategy or a deck that they pushed in the set, more than just like, hey, if you have the card, yeah, you could build a deck around it using it, but you had other pieces that already worked on their own until like set 6. But at first they were just kind of there.
And we'll get to that point.
And they're great collector pieces.
As the outsider, let's go ahead and just quick say when we joined the game, what our set was, and maybe just like literally what your first event was, if you can remember it.
Okay, so my first event is my birthday actually coincides on the same day that Dragon Ball came out to stores, release date, July 27th.
Cool.
So this game is like I was meant to play this game. A year after the game came out, I came in during set 4. I got some starter decks, and the Broly movie came out when they started putting it in theaters again, and they had the Black Broly leader, and I wanted to get that, but all my friends canceled their plans to go see the movie with me. And so someone in our group was like, hey, I got a bunch, and I went to the store. I wasn't planning to play a game. I just went to hang out and go get the promo leader. I ended up playing the event, won one game the whole day. It was fun.
You had a blast.
The next event I took first place. Anyways, that's when. So basically, World Martial Arts was just about to come out, and I didn't play anything competitively because all I could see online was SS3 Storm. And I was like, okay, everyone sounds like it's a miserable time to start playing this game. So I'll just collect and hang out and chill for a bit.
Josh?
Yeah, well, so I started playing right before set 2 started coming out. Rares getting revealed in set 2 was like right when I started playing the game, because I had been coming off of playing Panini Dragon Ball Z card game for a while, and didn't like have a game I was playing, and I didn't want to jump in on DBS like day 1, so I actually didn't do anything with it for like the first couple of months because I was really unsure. And actually, guys, the first person I ran into playing it was Alex Freestylist at Dreamers years ago. And he actually had a couple of decks and let me borrow one, and we played a couple of games, and I was like, okay, I can understand how this could be really like in depth. And then like right when set 2 came out was when I got a bunch of stuff, and Level Up Games was where I went and played my first event. And what I played was set 2 Vegito with the Vegito Secret Rare. That was my first event that I actually went to and played in.
Cool. That sounds like you're kind of a OG. It was really interesting hearing you say that, how you thought you joined it during set 1 and you thought, okay, I see how the game has depth, and then it would not get that depth for like 5 sets. The game would stay the same but with a higher power level for like years.
Yeah, like about almost 2 years.
I mean, set 3 is pretty arguably like when they introduced Overrealm, the game kind of changed, and I guess that was like halfway through set 2. But
Yeah.
either
No,
way,
3.
I joined I learned how to play the game weeks before set 7 came out. And then my first event, when I did not yet own any deck, I barely knew how to play the game. We'll just say it was not Minnesota's proudest moment where I didn't know how to actually functionally play the game. And I played Dom in the finals of a sealed World Martial Arts tournament. I did not know how to build a deck. I did not know which cards were good or bad.
Was that the same
But I played
event where 5 SCRs were like pulled?
Yeah, there were two. I think there were 2 SCRs
2 or
pulled
3.
among thing, and I did not pull one of them. My only SPSR in the thing was Goku, the yellow Sun Goku.
Oh, the yellow, yeah.
And it's like, if you don't have Jackie Chun, that card's just a 20k double striker for 3, which is like fine,
In sealed,
given
yeah.
especially that set. Anyways, I played Dom and thought that, like basically every other card game, that you played your turn and then you attacked. So lo and behold, where I planned my defense around Dom, who played as leader and did something, and then he drops the 5-drop Goku and swings with it, and I go, wait, what? You can't attack, you just attack me. Your turn's done, dude.
Where's your summoning sickness?
Yeah, well, I never played Magic, so like that was not really a thing I ever thought about. But like in Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon, and then also in Magic, you get to attack once. That's it. You get to that point in your turn, you attack, and then you're done.
There's an attack phase. Yeah.
But in this game, right, you just go main, battle phase, main into battle phase, into battle, into main, into main, into battle.
Yeah.
And so I was blown away that you could like sequence attacks differently.
Mm-hmm.
I would argue that my first event where I understood the rules and mechanics of the game was set 7 pre-release, followed by when I was generously given all the stuff to make a Super 17 deck by Alec Parsons and Mike Brittingham. Helped me learn the game. That, and then like set 2 Zamasu, but that deck was not that good. Super 17 was pretty good though.
Yeah, it was.
So I have basically only played the game when secret rares have been in large, not only just like kind of impact, but effectively if you were not playing a secret rare in your deck, you were goofing up.
You started in like what I would dub the modern era of DBS.
I would also describe it as that, because I think set 7 is really when the game became hyper interactive.
Yep.
And you were able to just see the options start to flow through people. Arrival becomes a big mechanic. Multicolor is not only introduced, counterplays are brought to the forefront. There's DBS up until this point had been played in a way where you basically just want to tap all your energy to play as many cards as you can to gain a larger advantage than your opponent.
All but one. You always kept one up for a negate.
You kept the one up so you could negate with Whisk Coercion twice and then restand the green energy to play final. Oh my gosh. What is the green card? The Vegeta one that gets reprinted a lot. Someone has to know this. Set 1.
Oh, the counter?
Yes.
In 1-drop counter that you
It's like final. No, I don't think it has final in the name.
Full power energy.
Full power energy. There we go.
I'm blanking on it. I actually didn't own that card for like the longest time.
So like that was just how the game is played, and I've heard a lot of stories because I'm a questioner. I like to know the history of things and kind of understand how metas are formed and shaped and kind of what was good. But I was still not there. So no matter how much I hear about it, people talk about the Storm format and they say Storm is the only deck that existed, and that may be true in a competitive sense in terms of power level viability. But there were other decks being played. When you went to a local, even if 6 out of 10 people brought Storm, there were still 4 other decks there. I don't know anything about those 4 decks.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
And so that's where I think you guys will hopefully fill in some of the blanks here as I kind of grill and quiz you about what it means to have been a secret rare. We'll talk a little bit about pull rates specifically. I think is a really big one.
Oh, yep.
Which vastly affects the way that the secret rares are viewed. And hopefully we can just give a little bit of insight to newer players that are confused as to why Baby Hatch doesn't auto win me the game. What's going on? why is this card not a Hachiyak? What? Why is Broly only playable in 2 decks? Bandai. What?
You grow a neck beard during that?
No, I do need to shave, but I really was starting to feel that way. So let's just jump right into it. Set 2 Union Force, they first introduced Secret Rares, which is the new SCR rarity. It is 1 per case. At random, you'll just open a box, you open a pack, and you just hope that you open that 10-drop Ultimate Force SSB Vegito.
Yeah, were SPRs 1 per box back then? I don't think they were.
No, not yet. So in set 1 and 2, they were 1 every 3 boxes, I think, right, Josh?
Mm-hmm. Well, and actually, that's true. That's true. I always had, I guess I don't know the specific statistic, but I always had way better pull rates with buying the what is now premium packs than special packs. Buying, because it was 4 packs. And I had way better pull rates with SPRs doing that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure those were like basically guaranteed 1 SR per premium pack.
They were.
Yeah.
Oh. Point is, right, they released this brand new card. It has the biggest number we've ever seen on a card in Dragon Ball at this point. I guess, see what, there's a couple 30Ks, and then there's the 140K Whis. But that was a 12-drop card that even in the most jank set 1 days, I'm sure probably never saw, well, certainly never competitive level play, but not even in a casual sense. 12 energy is a lot of cards in your energy for a game that can ramp like a couple cards in a game with objection and the 4-drop Whis.
That was it.
Mm-hmm.
And this card is literally just Union Fusion for 5 red for a Vegeta and a Trunks, or a Vegeta and a Goku. We're not at Vegex yet. And it's got the new tag ultimate where you can only run 1 of it in a deck, and then it's just got 2 fat keywords.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Triple attack, triple strike, 9 damage on board.
Yep. I'll be honest, when I was just starting this game and when I was looking at all the set 1 stuff and realizing how the game worked and playing it and then seeing set 2 stuff come out and seeing the set 2 Vegito leader come out, and I was like, multicolor? Because honestly, in set 1, you didn't play multicolor. You didn't even really in set 2. You didn't even really in set 3. The reason why you did was because of Mecha and SS3.
2.5 saw the rise of blue-green Soul Striker, if I recall, as well.
Soul Striker and a little bit of blue-green Crit Vegeta also. And that was kind of the only color combo that worked was blue-green.
Mm-hmm.
But so set 2 Vegito, I was like, this is exciting. It's multicolor. It's got this new secret. And yes, I was taken in by that 40.
Look at it.
It's a good looking card.
And so
they always look good.
That I wasn't spending money on a card game anymore. I was like, when I didn't buy a case, I bought a couple of boxes, and then I just bought the secret rare for like $90.
I mean, it's back to that price now.
I know. Great. That was the first like most expensive card in the game, minus a handful of harder to find promos, but
right.
Yeah.
So I think this was printed. It had the Union effect, Union Tora. This is the first time. This set was the first one with Union. That was their big keyword they're pushing. It has triple attack, triple strike. It just like it won you the game, and it definitely was meant for in the Vegito because it's a blue card that uses red energy.
Yeah, it's essentially a red secret.
Yeah.
So now I'll ask, because it kind of get left out there. Dom said that it wins you the game. So why isn't this card good? Especially at the time, you could play stuff, right? Why wasn't this card good? Why wasn't Vegito good?
I can answer that question really well, actually.
Okay, let's hear it.
Without you having prompted me at all. Seriously. Because I, still being new to the game, didn't quite understand, really the intricacies of what it meant to like play well and be good and what actually won games and stuff. So I did play a couple of games with this at events where I did just like my sole goal was to get to 5 energy and slap it down and just windmill slam it on, and I did win. But against a couple of other players, sometimes I did it and I had lost the game afterwards because I would do it, tap out, and my opponent would negate one of the attacks. and then my opponent would negate the other attack, and then they would like combo out of the third one because they had like 2 super combos in hand. And I was like, oh,
What just happened?
I just didn't win. Yeah, and then the next turn I would lose the game because I was tapped out, and I had 1 battle card in play that was tapped. So it doesn't win you the game because it's negatable, and barrier wasn't a keyword yet, and it's great, but like it's not impossible to get around.
Right. Also, deflect
So-
wasn't a keyword either, because Crush Your Ball and Cold Ball Dust were out
Both
at the time.
4.
Yeah, both at
Yeah.
4.
And so I was smart enough to play around that, but even then, like.
So now, do you think another issue could be that while not technically deck locked, it was effectively locked to Red Vegito, and on top of that, because of Union Patora's skills, you had to spend your previous turns establishing a Vegeta and a Goku that did not get removed during that turn.
Yep, exactly.
So this was a 2-step card that could still not win you the game, and was very vulnerable to basically anything your opponent did.
Mm-hmm. There was a lot less cards back then that just straight up KO'd things on the board, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
as long as you.
But you couldn't turn them sideways.
Right, that was the big thing. Is if you kept them in active mode, they were pretty safe. But if you put them in rest mode to attack, then they're a lot more vulnerable.
So right off the bat, we see a very powerful card that if it hits the board, you're pretty likely to win the game, not guaranteed. But 40k triple is still a really big number, especially since you're both probably playing a deck that lets you draw a card.
Yep.
And then we go to set 3, where the archetype lock gets even harder.
Yep.
But the card is much better at winning you the game than Ultimate Force Vegeta was. In set 3, we get Hyper Evolution Super Saiyan 3 Sun Goku.
Super Saiyan 4.
Super Saiyan 4, sorry. Where it evolves for 1 red and dropping, I think, 2 cards?
Yep, place 2 cards from your hand to the drop on a red Goku GT with the cost of 6 or more. So there was like a target at the time, I think.
No, there were 3 targets.
Brought 1 set 3 dropped.
Right?
Well, there was the starter deck one that was
the starter deck one, and then Triple Flash and the SR.
Oh, yep.
Oh, but Triple Flash, no, but the 6-drop SR is a Colossal Warfare.
Yep.
The Triple Flash was Colossal Warfare.
So
SR in set 3, that was just a red.
Okay. So Triple Flash was set 4. Got it. Point is, this card was a little bit better at winning you the game because it could just keep attacking as long as you drew more cards. It would be a 40k crit over and over and over again.
Is it crit? It's not crit.
Yes, it is.
It just burned damage.
It does burn once you're at 60k, which is the whole GT mechanic was pumping up your dudes.
Plus,
that was like the
pumping
red.
Up your Goku.
Yeah. This is
so
pushing
realistically, you could burn your opponent for 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty good card, but once again, it's leader locked. At this point, set 3 was not Storm yet, but Mecha and
Mecha Apes, I think. Once
Mecha
the draft
Apes
box
and
came out.
SS3 Apes. Is that right, Josh?
The meta was SS3 and Mecha.
Yeah. So once.
Which is why this deck just didn't see play because it wasn't viable at the time.
And when there's only 2 choices of secret rares, there's really, if you're playing a Vegito deck, you play the secret rare, or if you're playing a GT Goku deck,
you play this one.
Play this one.
Right. And then also activate main, if the 2 top decks are yellow, they have Mecha could run Cobalt Dust for free and Crusher Ball.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah,
and
pretty good.
Nimbus came out.
It did.
So those multiple swings don't matter.
So point is, I would argue pretty similar power level to Vegito, maybe a little bit better because it is easier to get out.
Yep.
But certainly not something that was like so good that you had to build your meta-defining deck around a secret rare.
Right. This set was pushing the EX Evolve new keyword.
I agree. And here we go into a card that did warrant you building your entire deck around it because the secret rare was so good. Is Son Goku the Awakened Power. When you say secret rare, this is generally the first card that people think of. This is our Blue Eyes White Dragon. This is our Charizard.
Yep.
This is our Black Lotus. This card is so simple.
Yeah.
Can't be negated. It evolves over a U7 Goku if you drop another U7 card. And if it deals damage, you win the game. But that was good enough.
Oh, it also helped at the time that they could easily just build around because this is the introduction of Theme Booster, and basically the deck basically built itself out of a box.
Yeah, all you need is just to buy a booster box of this
and pull it because it's also one per case still, right?
Yep, one per case. Of a limited print deck or a limited print set, which is why this set is now so expensive. It is really just, it shows that they are willing to make powerful SCRs, but what they did not realize is that just in the next set, they would turn this very niche card that could be played off of, what, at this point, one target, two targets?
Just the one at the time. It was like green 8-drop.
Just the hope of the universe.
Yeah, this was still a top tier deck at the time, was it, on release?
Still a top. Yeah, because it was when Mecha Apes, but after the Mecha Errata, right? After the Errata, before the SS3 ban.
Right, because you would stall with Nimbus, and you played the yellow Frieza. No Cold Bloodlust, not Frieza Army.
Yeah.
But you still run Nimbuses, and you just don't swing at your opponent if they can't awaken, because self-awakeners weren't that common yet. Actually, like, non-existent, besides, like, saying Kaba. That was, like, the only one in set 1, and for red only. You just pitch, draw 2, search top 7 for Universe 7 card with your extra card.
U7 representative.
Yeah, and then just go up your chains of Gokus and hope you see them and hope your SCR is not in your life, or else you lose the game.
Well, except you didn't, though, and that's what made this deck really cool, because the 8-drop was still a triple attack critical.
True.
That ripped a card every time it attacked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. It's later on you lose the game because Self-Awakeners came out, and then
the reason why I say that is because I played U7 Yellow Frieza for a while, because it was the first like best control deck in the game, where it was like a Frieza who didn't have to do anything to just draw cards and you could win. And I didn't own this card, but I owned 4 of the 8-drop green Goku, and I owned 4 of the yellow Frieza Emperor.
Rare.
Yeah. The Goku line and the Frieza line, because you could just run both.
Yeah, that Frieza was killer back then.
Your deck in and of itself without the secret rare, because the rest of the engine just worked.
But would you argue that you could reasonably bring it to an event with the intent to win without this card?
At the time, probably. You didn't. You probably had a better. You having the secret rare did make it better.
Okay. Sure. If you had to give a rating of the deck at the time, with and without secret rare, how much did it impact the deck?
With the secret rare, it was a 9.5. Without, probably a 7.
Right, so that's a 2-point difference there. So, in equivalence to what that would be today, if you're looking at a 9, you're talking about a Zamasu strength deck. Mm-hmm. If you're talking a 7, you are talking a... Oh gosh, what's a 7 in today's meta?
Dredge. Dredge is like 8.
No, 8. That's like an 8. That's like an 8, 8.5. Man, I'm really trying to think about like what's a 7. Broly Surge, right? Maybe. Right, so you're probably sitting at like, those are the kind of differences. That's how big of a difference. Like, you say it's playable, and that's certainly still true of even Broly Surge, but you should not go to an event without this card if you're planning to play U7 at least,
and winning the whole thing,
and with the intent to win.
What was the top tier deck at the time of Tournament Power release? Was it still SS3, right?
Oh yeah, it was still SS3 for sure. SS3,
Um,
like anything, was just better.
Yeah.
Then
You started with 2 energy, like it was dumb.
and you started drawing cards faster, and you always had more, and you always had defense.
Yeah, because you could run
Um,
SS3 apes, you could run SS3 veggies, you could run SS3 GT engine.
mhm. So to keeping on, we move over to set 4, where we introduce our first 2 secret rares in one set.
And they were
Still with
even.
the same pull rate.
No, these were 2
Of,
per case.
were they 2 per case?
Yep, these ones were.
So specifically, Colossal Warfare was
Yep.
2 per case.
Yep.
Got it. So we get these new cards, and Goku Jr. is more archetype locked than even.
Yeah, this is like our first we got our first true archetype with Goku lineage tag, and then they added swap mechanic, and they were just pushing the swap into this 8-drop Goku Jr. Like you go up the chain of
There's
Kid Goku
1,
or
2.
Bardock all the way up to Gohan to Goku to UI Goku to
I
Goku
think there's
Jr.
4 cards that swapped into this before Ultimate Box. Starter deck, SS4, the Abrupt Breakthrough, the inset. What was this 5-drop inset that swapped to it?
But swap to 8.
Swapped to 8.
No, there were others that just swapped to other 5s.
That was the Golden Ape. The Golden Ape Goku swapped to another 5. I think there was a set card. Oh, Apex, the starter deck blue, Super Saiyan blue.
Oh, yep. And that was funny because it didn't come with a swap 8, like an 8-drop Goku lineage card in there at all.
Right. And it literally just says you have to check the top 5 or top 7.
Oh, when
And
this
then if
card
you
attacks top 7.
5 different names, you could crit 2 of your opponent's life. So it was
And
effectively 40.
Yeah, and he was 5
5
damage.
damage. 5 damage. But your chances of hitting 5 different names in 7 cards is very slim. Especially given that the game isn't just battle cards.
Right, that was the biggest problem with it, was that it was like, yeah, you could still build your whole deck around it with the battle cards, but then it's like, oh, but I want to run Nimbus, and I want to run other extra cards.
And if you want to be able to hit that more consistently, then all of a sudden you're not running the best swap 4. You're running one of each swap 4. And you're running one of each swap 2.
Yeah.
And you start diluting the power of your deck to be able to make this card work. And it was certainly something that if you were building that deck, you should still include. Teaching someone to play the game and you play this card in a Goku swap deck is a great way to do so. But this right here is, I guess you can confirm, Josh, this is, even amongst what we've seen so far, the least playable secret rare up until this point.
I think yeah. Mm-hmm. And it was at the time and kind of still is.
I would argue it's probably the least playable out of, as I look down our list, this will be the least playable secret rare even to this day.
Wait a minute.
The least playable as a secret rare, but also the archetype that it was supposed to be in didn't use it anyway, because the archetype just turned into 1/2 swap.
It became an aggro deck rather than a...
Yeah, some stupid email ruling that became a real ruling. Because swaps, that's a whole nother discussion we can do later about swap. The how that got all kind of janked up, and they doubled down on an email ruling instead of doing a clear ruling.
But let's talk about the meat and potatoes right here.
The
Beyond Darkness Demigra is the first multi-deck playable,
saw no play,
viable to
saw
today.
No play. Saw no play. Saw absolutely no play. No play.
Saw no play.
Saw no play. Dark Overrealm 7 for 5, because at the time you would never get the 5. Turn 5 was a dream. This is why SCRs were not a thing.
Yeah.
Beyond that, the amount of black cards in the game also limited the ability to get Dark Overrealm 7 easily.
Yep. Correct.
Bigger was the deck that it was possible in, really.
Which is what it was meant for. Dark Overrealm it came out set 4 because everybody wanted a mono black deck to run. And then they got their dream and it got Dark Overrealm. Yep. And so it was just meant for mono black. And then pushing the Dark Overrealm keyword in the set.
Storm existed.
Right.
It was too aggro. That format was way too aggro.
And so even beyond that, the decks that weren't aggro were Haida Mastery control based, and then they would play Victory Strike. So there was no reason still yet to base a highly competitive deck on a secret rare.
Well, and the other up to this point, control deck was Cell. Cell was the number one deck for about 2 sets, really, like realistically, before like Mecha and stuff came out and sort of took over, really.
And it was a very powerful deck at that, and considerably cheaper than trying to buy a secret rare.
You just needed 4 good SRs, really.
I guess you could say Goku Jr. built the deck around, but it's just like one of the final spots.
I wouldn't even say you build a deck around it. I would just say that
It's a
if you
fifth
were
8
playing,
drop.
yeah, if you were for some reason playing set 2 Zamasu or set 1 Beerus or Announcer, you would play Goku Oob. Still, honestly, one of the single strongest like set cards in the game. It just doesn't come out easy enough. It bottom decks 2 life on play and then on swings, and then is also going to deal 4 damage himself.
Are we on Goku Oob now? Wait a minute.
Yeah, Goku.
I got lost.
We're on Goku.
That was called a segue, Dom.
Oh god, I was so lost in that.
You instigated it.
I said Goku Jr.
Oh, I thought I heard you said Goku, dude.
I said Goku Oob. I thought I said Goku Jr.
Did you? Either way, the VOD will prove us right. I think it's about time though, because this is kind of the last turning point before we start getting to good stuff.
Yeah, we've
been
the
talking
Overwhelm block
so far about the Overwhelm block. Goku Oob still very strong, but the issue is just like Josh mentioned with the set 2 Vegito, no protection.
Also, people could easily play around it once they find out you have it, because you're not going to play it on 8.
And I think this is kind of where Josh's expertise will hopefully lend insight. How good was Announcer at the time?
No, that's me. That was my deck. I came
but
in.
You weren't playing yet.
Yeah, I was.
Right?
I won.
Set 4. Yeah. Set 4. Yeah. Okay.
I was winning with Announcer.
Yeah, you got this, Dom.
Yeah. So Announcer was great because it could stall with all the negates in its hands and drawing cards per negate you played, or once per turn. So you could easily stall, draw a lot, have all the combo power to get out of everything. And
then on turn 6.
On turn 6, if your opponent's at 6 energy, right? 6?
Yeah.
6 cards and more in your energy, you just drop this card and you just kind of won. Even if they negated, by then you have them low enough because turn 5 you played Bad Ring Laser with Vegeta and Goku for 6 damage.
Ooh, Battering
Laser. So this card in its deck worked really well, but still the format was Storm. So I saw no play.
Good deck. Like it was an A tier deck.
Yeah. On release. Another issue. Another thing we should point out is this card for a Theme Booster, this Theme Booster 2, came out 4 per case.
Way different.
Mm-hmm. The pull
rates. You could reasonably expect that as a casual fan of the game, you would pull this card. That if you just bought a couple boxes, you had a really high chance, if not guaranteed, to pull this card.
Yeah, it was a good card. I liked it, but you wouldn't play it anything other than World Tournament or just too fast of a format. It did start seeing some play in ramp decks that just get to 8 in blue.
did.
And then I want to segue back to Demigra because this is where Demigra started seeing play now, is in the World Martial Arts. Because Hercule was the counter to Storm because they would swing a lot wide, and Hercule per battle would just combo card, draw a card. And you would combo like the 110Ks, draw a card. So you could draw 2 cards per swing.
Yeah, and his flip was draw 3 cards.
Yeah.
He just drew a lot of cards.
And then you would fill your drop with the black announcer cards because you get to draw extra cards or search cards from Hercule because he's a world tournament leader, and easily fill the drop with 7 and just win with Demigra. Because there's
Interesting. I have never heard of that before.
yeah, it fell out of favor once Janimba came out in set 5 because he just drew too much.
Mhm.
I think it was still viable then, but Janimba got too much popularity to people felt safe running it.
Yeah, Hercule was actually like A tier for a little while.
He was like S tier. He was the
So-
deck for half a
Little.
format.
Yeah, for I guess like half.
As we prepare to move into the next block, I want you guys to kind of confirm deny what this meant for secret rares as the block continued, or as it concluded. Secret rares were a neat thing that you could pull. They would be expensive cards solely because of their rarity and collectability. Every one of these cards saw play in effectively one archetype, aside from Victor Strike, who saw play in 2 archetypes, and
Did he?
Demigra, who could see Height of Mastery swap and
That wasn't a
use
thing.
of it.
It wasn't a thing yet.
Yeah, you wouldn't.
not
You
You
wouldn't.
couldn't just go into it in
No,
Colossal Warfare.
no. There's no other Universe 7 cards you'd run.
And no one did that then.
Interesting. So even worse,
It was too aggro.
everything is in one archetype except for arguably Demigra and Goku Oob, which you would then purposefully run multiple cards in your deck to be able to play them.
Yeah, only Demigra at this point was in multiple decks because of Hercule and black decks. Goku Oob, the ramp strategies came out after set 6.
Interesting. And
'Cause-
Demigra would then see play again when Dragon Ball decks in this next set.
Yep. So this like basically half a year, Demigra had a run as being the secret rare. Had a really good run. So into Shenron's Wish block.
Even for the next set, because let's be honest, Miraculous Fighter SS3 Gogeta didn't really see play either.
Yeah, he is weird. He had deflect.
He had deflect on a
That's-
secret rare, which didn't really matter that much. Specifically, it would prevent Cold Bloodlust, which is good. But Crusher Ball didn't matter to it because if it's Sparking 10 or Sparking 15 effect, and the other effects didn't really care about it. So its purpose seemed to kind of just be an additional attack after you played Gogeta 7.
It was
But-
like icing on the cake.
But yeah, Gogeta 7 basically just won the game anyways.
Gogeta 7 was the best secret rare we've ever had.
Gogeta 7.
Yeah.
Super rare.
Yet.
That was
Wait until set 9.
Yeah. Gogeta 7. See, this at the time where they came out with Wish decks, Shenron leader, the black Shenron leader. It was just basically every card became Vegito secret rare. Triple strike, triple attack. Because you could give triple attack with the
Leader Wish. Big Wish.
and triple strike was given with the 5-drop free 5-drop Shenron that you could play. So everyone had a chance to become Vegito with a little work.
So this one is just, it feels so out of place when you look at the rest of this block because this feels like a set 4 secret rare. This feels like it belongs in the Overrealm block because it is archetype block, but not necessarily entirely. But you had to play multiple cards that would lead into it, and on its own, while it would probably win the game, it was not so guaranteed of a win that it was worth building your deck around.
This is the transition time.
Yeah,
Secret.
there's some growing pains. It had sparking because this is when sparking was announced.
They wanted to give it a lot of keywords.
Yeah.
Because deflect was a new keyword, sparking was a new keyword.
I think it's also playing off burst because you split up your drop really quick because you get the
With
big
the
sparking
starter deck.
15. The starter deck Gogeta leader going over the Gogeta 7, but also had a big sparking effect. But like we said, you just combine these two starter decks, and your Gogeta 7 became Vegito Secret Rare plus discard your opponent's whole hand. Or not discard, but like your opponent's
Shuffle
hand's
in.
gone. So
As
the format just
then,
kind of like killed this deck.
mhm,
Or Gogeta.
SS3 at least.
Yeah. Are you gonna say anything else?
I
That's
was
about it.
about to just basically ask, did this card ever see playability? Was it even worth it running in your deck? Because at this point, this is kind of maybe the standout point where we said that it did look like it belonged in the other archetypes. But at the very least, you could argue that if you were building a Vegito deck and or a SS3 GT deck, your intention to win was not necessarily based off of this secret rare, but it was instead win more.
Yeah.
But this card might not have been worth the deck slot. Does that sound like it could actually be accurate?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah.
It didn't. I don't remember it seeing any play. It just because like SS or Gogeta 7 was what won you the game, not this.
Yeah. Plus at this point, the fact like Gogeta 7 is like basically could have just been the secret rare.
You're
Shenron,
saying that if the effects had been switched, perhaps?
oh probably.
That'd been bonkers. Yeah.
Like they could have toned this down just a little bit, like so it's not as confusing to play, and get rid of that EX evolve. Like you probably could have stopped them. But like
And
the fact Shenron came out and the Dragon
remember.
Balls were black, and those are 7 Dragon Balls, and there's 7 black cards in your drop. You just played Demigra in every Shenron deck.
it was an easier option because 7 Dragon Balls was in every yeah.
Interesting.
Yep, that's a good point, Dom. I totally forgot about that, but you're absolutely right. Demigra was just the go-to secret because of every single Dragon Ball deck would just run Demigra instead.
Yep, Demigra came out in the wrong set.
Then as we switch over, we see the first truly versatile, truly, if this card hits the board, it wins the game, secret rare of the game. And it was like not even close, other than arguably OG Victory Strike. This is pretty clearly the best secret rare that had been printed yet.
And not only
Well,
that,
I'd say. Sorry, Josh, you go.
No, just yeah. Not only that, but it wasn't locked to a deck like every other secret rare was, basically.
Right, like or intended to be locked into a deck. Like Demigra is supposed to be black decks, but now Wish came out with 7 Dragon Balls. Like, oh yay. I would say that Demigra basically at the time, because of how the game was with no counterplays and stuff like ripping, and it's just basically all based on hand advantage. Ripping your opponent's hand 4 cards to combo would just win you the game the next turn if they negated you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, but this guy coming down wipes the board. You get to
looks
look
at your
your opponent's hand.
and then if you get to count that if you can win or not. And on top of that, then you can go, okay, well, my opponent still has to get over a 40k quad strike, and you can rip in a gate.
And I think at this point there were very, very few cards that let you look at your opponent's hand. I think maybe Foreseeing Hit was the only other one.
I think so.
I'm thinking about my card catalog. Yeah, that sounds right. Foreseeing Hit.
That was the 4-drop hit from Tournament of Power. Yeah.
Saw a lot of play because of that.
Yeah.
And to this day, this secret rare sees the most amount of play of all the secret rares on this page. Even
Yeah.
if it is probably arguably worse than Broly, it certainly sees the most amount of play because red still does not have a very obvious generic
choice. Yeah.
secret rare.
Yeah.
But this card was so generic and so powerful that now, if you played a red deck, even today, you generically throw this in there, right?
I'd say
Yep.
mostly.
This
Unless
was
you're
the
like a
first
super
one.
aggro deck. Because
But
getting
even then,
turn 5 is still like
now
a
that
big number.
now that we've got floodgates,
Right.
a
And even, like,
one of late game turn card is good.
Yeah. Yeah. Even playing red decks for like a long time, having it as an option, even if you're playing a hyper aggro, like you'd want this to be in your sideboard because if the game goes long, if you're playing against a longer game deck, you want to put it in.
Hmm. Yeah, I think
Interesting.
at this time too, we're finally seeing. I think Bardock finally got banned at this point, I believe.
And this was right around the time where the biggest problem was still Super Shenron and
No, Super Shenron was set 6, so this is still it's just a normal.
5.5
Yeah,
here.
we're at 5, and you're right, yeah. So I
yeah.
mean,
So
Swap
Swap was still the top deck. Storm. We did, actually at this point we actually didn't have any big events. We had a big
Genem-
lull because set 4, I believe set 4 into 5 was the. It was set 5 was nationals
F5 was Nats.
because there's a lot of Cell Super 17. I remember, but Storm still won.
Yep. Marco 1 was Storm with
Marco won with Storm
Yep. Hrudigar and Storm.
because SS3 got banned.
Thing. It had just started, but it was big already.
Yep.
Now, speaking of good generic secret rares, Broly Ultimate Agent of Destruction here. Now, I didn't play technically during these times, but when I joined, this card was in a top tier deck.
Yep.
And it was effectively mandatory for that deck, at least in any sort of competitive sense.
Pretty much. Yep.
And it was probably the single most I played this card, I win the game secret of that point.
Basically.
The least amount of counterplay, even beyond Victory Strike. Because Victory Strike could be blown up with Shigesh Kidku during set 3. And then, or I guess what? Shigesh was legal all the way till set 6, wasn't he?
I'm trying to think of when it got banned. Yeah.
It got banned after set 6. Cronoa was a thing, and people dropped it fast because Cronoa was in every main board sideboard.
Mm-hmm.
Once set 4 came out.
Set 4. Yeah.
And certainly, it could also be blown up by like if you were playing green, Enraged Son Gohan, or Enraged. Yeah, I think. Or whatever the negate is, where it's like Enraged Anger or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when attacking battle card that.
Yeah, you could blow it up.
Yeah.
At this point, we start to see the first battle interaction. Not quite as much as what the next set will bring. But this card just ripped your opponent's hand all the way to 0, your own hand to 0, and you would just play it and win.
Right, because the deck it was in easily manipulated your life to go down to 1, like almost every time. And the deck this was needed in the deck at high tiers because that extra 2 swings and then blowing up the hand, even just the extra 2 swings were just
was huge.
Just enough to get you the win.
This is the turning point for these secret rares where they are needed for the deck.
And what sucks is this is set 6, both this one and the Boo we'll talk about. These even though there's 2, the second time we had 2 in a set, they went back to 1 per case.
Yep.
So to basically try to guarantee the Broly, and it still was not guaranteed, you would have to buy 2 cases.
Correct.
Of sets.
And also set 6 became one of the hardest sets to get. It became very short printed because at this point Bandai was kind of burned by overprinting sets 3 and 4 in World Martial Arts, but they dialed back. And this is when it was getting hard to get packs for some reason for a lot of places.
I recall it was a pretty big deal that my roommate at the time and I got to split a Destroyer Kings box. We had to call Goat because they got 6 boxes in, and they were taking pre-orders over the phone because they were going that fast. So we were calling and messaging every day and asking, "Hey, did you get that? Did you get those boxes yet? Can we come grab one?" And we would split one because he couldn't. I guess he could probably sell it to us yet, but I hadn't yet established myself as someone who could um, do something like that. And so it was such a big deal to try to pull this card that we knew was what, $200-$300 at its time, still pushing $250 to this day.
And that's an interesting thing too with the money, right? Is that Victory Strike aside, because it's kind of an exception. All the rest of these secrets barely got above $100.
I think the
Did they
Migra.
remain there? Did they
No,
remain at
No.
there?
I think
most
the
of them
Migra got the closest. He got over. I think he got to 100, but he hovered at
try to get
80.
yeah, but most of these didn't stay there. They all pretty much dropped.
Oh, we forgot to say
Bro,
Frieza Army Reborn was also for 4 per case, just so everyone knows why that one's not super expensive for being so playable.
yeah, easier to get. It was a tournament booster, so there was less cards in the set.
A theme booster, yeah.
Or theme booster, yeah. But yeah, Broly was one of the first ones. Again, Victory Strike kind of aside with small printing and stuff, but like it went in price immediately, and it's more or less stayed there.
Yeah.
It went down, back up, and it was worth it because it won you the game, and it was a good deck.
It was like the deck until the Super Shenron puzzle got figured out.
And then once Shenron got banned, it was once again a top tier deck.
Yep. And also, he can fit in any green deck that just has a big 7-drop green card.
You could have run it in Cell technically, or Ribrian.
Yep.
Or in green Vegeta with Hyper Rush.
Yep. All you needed was the 1-drop Paragus dash back that just KO'd your own card and you draw a card.
And you could play Broly.
It's interesting too because this was right when Celebrations was happening, Dom, and I think where a lot of us kind of started to meet and hang out more and go play more games. And I remember hard to get. I went to the shop championship in St. Cloud at Lionheart Games in order to get more cards, and then I actually went and won that event, and then came back and just got more Destroyer Kings.
Yeah, I think
I was the only one who went there.
set 6.
Let's go, Josh.
The celebration we went to in Chicago was a week. I think, was it the first week this set was legal?
Maybe second, but it was pretty soon after.
Right, no, you're right. It was second because at the time the TOs that were running the events got to choose if the set was legal, and they decided not to do it the first weekend it came out on the pre-release. Because technically it was legal, but it was pre-release, so at least they didn't do that. Bandai, now that they're the ones kind of more running their bigger events, that's a whole nother topic I would like to rant about legality of cards, but whatever. Because I know my group, because it was a team event, my team, we got a case and split it, and that basically was like our whole stock of set 6 because we got it right before we went to the event, and then I pulled the boo.
Speaking of boo,
There you go. See, that time I was ready for the segue.
this card was at one point part of a top tier deck. Now it is one of the least playable SCRs in the game.
But still pretty expensive because it was harder to get.
And
it was hard to get.
It got a little
very
hyped.
Cool. And it got a little hyped up because people misplaced how the new Agent of Destruction's archetype would work.
Yeah, this card, can I talk? It's my favorite card.
Yeah, I was gonna say in the meta, Dom, you are quote unquote famous, infamous. However, relative to a Minnesota player's thing, because in Chicago you played on stream.
Yep.
And you did something very evil.
Right. I played this card 3 times in one game.
Well,
not match, game.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which people weren't quite sure how it worked, and when they got it, they were like, "Oh,
To be fair, I watched the celebrations like before like the set even was pre-released, and they were like, of course the set was announced and like spoiled. Like they had spoilers like always, not on Facebook but on their page, and it was like every Friday. The game designer was playing some set 6 decks. He played Purunga, and he was playing Purunga AOD, and I was like, oh, I like this. So I built it, modeled after his deck, and he ran the whole running of the Child's Wish in Purunga. Child's Wish revived the 3-drop 15k Boo from Tournament Power. Searches for basically any red Boo. You'd grab um, Evil Absorption Majin Buu, but evolved for 2. And Child's Wish was a 2-cost card. And it was played for free if you're awakened or wished. So you wish it for free, play the Boo, evolve over 2, put a Bobbity underneath it, Evil Wizard. And then you can just grab any Majin Buu 25k or more, which included the secret rare. So this became the fastest secret rare to play in the game. And you just drop a turn 2 and play a bunch of AODs because you were milling yourself with some freeze cards or whatever. And it's just basically you have a 40k triple strike and like 4 critical cards, and you made your opponent discard 3 cards from their hand, and you just win from there.
it was dumb."
It was very fun. Little degenerate because the only counterplay to worry about at the time, because Broly was a Frieza army leader, was called Bloodlust, but minus Killing Zone was legal. Fun card.
So, as we kind of get through the history of then this block, we can see that SCRs still have points in which they are good. Boo eventually would then see a large nerf as Child's Wish gets banned, and some of the archetypal pieces become slower.
Yep.
Broly is still very good, but in terms of ultimate playability in a top level deck, it is only represented in Broly BR. And Frieza is just generic good in any red deck. But at this point, you don't build the deck and say, well, which secret rare am I playing?
Yeah.
You build the deck and then you say, is there a secret rare made for this deck? And the language kind of changes. This is really, especially with Frieza, where we see generic is common. And the next are basically, let's just say that Frieza Army Reborn and Broly walked so that Infinite Unity could run.
Good meme.
So this is where I joined the game.
Yeah, this is the modern era now. Things changed.
Yeah. It was really rough going to Gen Con with AOD, and counterplays came out the day of, and they're like, hey, this is legal now. A week
So
before.
let's just take a peek at let's just think about what the cards have done in the past versus what these first two from set 7, Super Saiyan 3 Scramble, Raditz, Vegeta, and Broly, and Power Batara, Kefla, Vegito, and Zamasu do. Go ahead, Dom. You were going to say something?
I was just going to say, like, just the number of cards on the screen right now.
Right. We went from 10 secret rares slowly introduced over the course of the game.
In like 2 years.
Was that four mainline or 5 mainline sets?
I think
Yeah.
set
and
7 is
3 power boosters.
Is set 7 the 2-year, basically 2-year anniversary?
Yes.
Yeah.
July to August.
July, yeah.
Because its first or its release date was August 3rd of 2019.
So a couple weeks after.
I just want to bring immediate attention to the power level of what these cards do on play, as well as their lasting impact on a game, as well as the big thing is how easy they are to play. So far, we have seen archetype restrictions. We have seen heavy color restrictions in colors that are underrepresented in black. We have seen specific cards that you have to evolve. And then we've seen, realistically, 1.5 really generic ones with Frieza and Broly. But Frieza had the stipulation of, gotta be a 2 life, unless you're paying 8. Don't pay 8 for that card. Or Broly, you also have to run multiple ways to destroy your own cards to play me. And you do not get his full effect, which honestly, 40k dual double isn't enough to win the game if you aren't getting rid of their whole hand. But these two, for 5 energy, did something that,
I like how
at this point in the game, was effectively unrivaled in terms of power.
5 is still the number for SCRs though, which is still good. And
I agree that it is a good.
we're finally getting to that point at this time where 5 is doable, whereas before the game has been like 3 and 4. So now like 5, because counterplays have been a thing, and the fact that multicolor is just a slower format because energy exhaust is a thing.
You had to spend your first turn tapped out no matter what, basically.
Yep, so that just meant the timer just went up at 1 turn.
Yep. Which changed a lot.
And our dual SCRs became 2 per case. So 1 of each per case.
Yep. And so let's look at the meta at set 7. At this point, we see the emergence of U7 or U6, which is a crazy powerful deck.
Oh, we forgot to talk about Victory Strike, Broly. You Height of Mastery. That was right. That was. Okay. That was because that was last format technically.
Because it's still around at this point. Because I was going to say Shenron Height of Mastery.
This is when it died.
Yeah.
It died here.
But either way, so right, so Victory Strike saw additional play in 2 more archetypes. But at this point, the meta is U7 aggro, red, green,
U6 aggro.
good stuff in pan. You could not play the red green engines at the time. Anyone who played during this time must know the Broly engine. Those cards are great, but the red Broly leader provided to us is terrible.
Yeah, I tried at Nats.
Gohan leader that we all know as hyper aggressive and very good had an archetype that was not suited for it. At least in the same set that they introduced counterplays. To not have any protection on a 420k did not work. These cards, Scramble oftentimes was literally, if you play me, you win.
Yeah, you would save him just for the 2 damage.
You would literally just go, I burned you for 2, good game. And then if it didn't, it would swing, and then your opponent could basically only combo with they lose about a third to a half of their deck because those cards are just uncomboable.
Actually, you would effectively swing when they're at 3 life and dump there, and then Arrival. And then it's on the board, and you just win.
That's how we do that.
Yeah.
We're out or at 4 when Broly Surge comes out, but that's still a couple sets away here. But this card was effectively good enough that in Pan and other type decks, you would just run this card because it was like Frieza in that if it hit the board, if the situation came up, if your opponent stalled you, it was that good. And Power Patara is literally the definition of what makes a card good. It's a big number with a big keyword, and it draws a lot of cards, creating more card advantage.
Yep.
And then they were both reduced to 5, like Dom said.
Yep, 5 was number.
Set as a precedent by the first Secret Rare.
That's true. 5 was the number that I think they decided the game should end by.
Or at least someone should make a gamble that they are going to try to end it at that point. At this point, Arrival is still weaker because we do not have multicolor super combos. So to play Scramble, you would still -3 in hand unless you super comboed.
Or gone for game.
Right?
Yeah, that's when you would scramble the most.
So that's a little bit weaker. But then we saw Between set 7 and 8, we saw the release of Draft Box 4.
Gross.
Um,
Dark Times and DBS.
It introduced a lot of very powerful cards that made the two aforementioned decks of Red Green Pan, and I guess this is when U6 started to swap over Broly leader, the movie
Yeah, because
Broly BR leader.
because that was already winning before, because they would go Height of Mastery, Power Booster Goku, who was a U7, which
Path
then
to
made
Greatness. Victory
putting
Strike.
swap Height of Mastery a thing, because you would swap Path of Greatness back to hand, and then evolve by ditching the Path of Greatness, so you just swap back into your hand.
Right.
That's how
So,
it became splashable in every set, every yellow deck, and even Chile Limo.
and so we see the prominence of good stuff deck around this point in the game. Very early Dragon Ball was dominated by good stuff deck, and then once again around Draft Box 4, good stuff deck takes over.
Yeah, Button Apes.
Which was also the Nats we all went to.
Yes.
Good time.
We saw Broly. We saw good stuff ramp in Shenron ramp. They played all the best. Yep, Shenron ramp. They played all the best bombs in the game, including OG Victory Strike
And Gogeta 7.
and Gogeta 7, Beerus God of Demolition, Kaioken Son Goku Savior of Earth.
And then they Ultra Instinct, the 4-drop, from Draft Box 4, the blue.
Yep, for like a new level of hyper defense that could answer all of the secret rares that we have previously established. Yep. Cards that could be the up your sleeve answer to win the game could no longer win you the game. Even if you had a deck that had the ability to get through the stall and then you just played a card that was so powerful it won, they wouldn't lose. Still, there is a lack of genericy, if you will. I don't really know if that's a word.
Genericality.
I don't know. Both of those sound awful.
They all do.
Genericality, genericy.
Yeah, because at this time, like, they're really focused on making multicolor the thing, and each set focused on 2 color combinations at a time. And so you just had to play the 2 colors at a time.
Particularly, the only color combo that was not meta upon its release was green.
Yeah, blue-green.
Blue-yellow was instantly powerful. Red-yellow was instantly powerful. Blue-green instantly. Same with red-blue and green-yellow. So we moved to set 8.
Wait, which one was not powerful? I guess you kind of cut out. You said red-green or blue-green?
Red-green.
Yeah, because it's only Pan, and it was playing defense in an aggro deck. Aggro colors.
Until we get to Surge Broly, which is between 8 and 9.
Yeah, speaking of aggro, though, red-yellow.
Whew.
So right now we're still turn 5 plays on both super secret rares, and they were more easily available because 2 per case, and I don't think they broke 100. Besides, like, the pre-release weekends.
On release and shortly after, Vegeta was pushing 200. Yep. Janemba was pushing about 150. But then soon dropped to about 100 because red yellow, like, we talked about it with Frieza and like, oh well, red, you're not gonna really get there. Red yellow, you actually didn't make it to turn 5. That didn't exist until Surge Coup. You played baby and you won the game very quickly.
Turn 3.
Or you lost on the clapback because you have 12 110Ks in hand.
Yep, easily.
And then we see the introduction of another turning point for the game.
3
even if this
rares.
card isn't, well, yes, that, but I was going to say the fact that we have a black, truly generic, every single deck in the game can play the negative energy overflow Dragon Balls to some effect.
All but Overrealm.
Even then, you could pay 7.
You could, or maybe like
And
a little bit extra, less. But yeah, so this is our first super generic because it's black.
super duper generic.
They're pushing multicolor, and they're like, here, if you want to play something else and want something to pull, here you go. And they actually were using this kind of like as a
precursor for
precursor for Unison Warriors with Shadow Dragons, because Shadow Dragons have seen nothing, and they got kind of skipped during Shenron's Wish when they skipped over GT from Super 17, and they're like, meh.
We'll get back to it.
We'll get back to GT.
And so they teased it for 2 whole sets.
In a fun way.
Before giving it to us. Yeah, these are good teasers. I think people were still just upset at the fact that the largest arc of GT, if you will, if not like the second most memorable after Baby, was largely skipped. Just completely ignored. I think there were a couple of cards that were Shadow Dragon Saga,
Nope.
but they were not any Shadow Dragons. No?
Nope.
None?
Nope.
Not a single one.
Was even the Mazu.
It was this
Super
SS4
17.
Vegeta. This SS4 Vegeta is the first Shadow Dragon Saga.
And the balls, yeah.
And the balls, yeah.
But they don't have a keyword though.
Yeah, they don't have Saga.
Or a trait. They don't have a Saga, yeah. But so basically this represents another point in the game where we have a versatile secret rare with Vegeta who has both an offensive and defensive capability. We'll see another one of those later. Janemba, which honestly just didn't see play despite being a very good card. I would argue it came out at a time where Floodgates became more popular than ever with Nimbus and Topo. I mean, people would literally run 8 cards in red to run Topo.
Yeah.
And so if you it doesn't matter if your opponent minuses their leader because you're just not going to swing into them.
Yep.
Or you couldn't if they Nimbused.
Offering was good though. Offering's great.
Offering is good.
And your opponent could have paid 3 life to not let you play this card, and then you draw 2 if they want the super like less harmful route.
If they want the least life to be dealt, like you don't want to take any burn damage, your leader will go minus 30, I think, and then they'll draw 2 cards.
Right.
Which is a really hefty price to pay for not critting those life. Pretty rare. Honestly, most of the time you would just play, if they were playing this card, or you knew they were going to, you would just try to make sure that you could crit 3 and then floodgate them.
Yeah. And still at this point, SCRs, starting with the multicolor, because now if you're running the 2 colors and running multicolor,
you just jammed it in the deck.
You would run these cards probably. Most likely. You have another option now with the balls, but now these cards are just like, if you're running blue-green, throw in Vegeta. If you're running red-yellow,
you throw in Baby.
That or Frieza.
Frieza was the only arguable.
Yeah. Because Frieza is so good, but now if you're running but Frieza still needed 5 specific red. So you'd still run Baby Janemba. Power Patara, yeah. Blue, yellow.
We're at this point where now, especially given the meta at the time was a Hachiyak, Baby, Android 21 trifecta. And then kind of Broly, and not by kinda, it was still Broly Apes.
Or Broly U6 at this point. Because,
No, this is Broly Apes time.
Button got banned.
Nats was... Oh, Button got banned.
Yeah.
Did it get banned by set 8?
Yeah.
No, I played Baby versus Broly Apes with
Oh, then the emergency ban came out quickly after, I think.
It was after store championships at the same time.
Okay. Then it was.
But it was before the Surge expansion.
Yeah, it might have been right when the Surge expansion came out.
Yeah, I think it might have been in effect that day.
Yeah, they happened at the same time.
Oh, that makes sense.
But the decks that we saw all contained the secret rare. And if they didn't, they were trying to play something kind of rogue. And at the time, rogue decks were just the decks that could run older secret rares. Broly BR was rogue, but it would run Broly.
I think also at this
Shenron Height of
point,
Mastery.
yeah. Well, World Peace got hit by then.
Set 9.
No,
Set
I
9.
think it was 8. Or it's, either way, I think at this
Yeah.
point, like, since these were just so splashable, if you're running at the top tier, like, I still
You built a
argue
deck.
you wouldn't need it. If you built the deck to try to win, you still like you'll have the means to get to the card, so you would run the card.
Mm-hmm.
I still don't think at this point they're still necessary, but you still had them because you could steal a win because that's how secret rares are. They're still your 1 per 50 card bomb.
Mm-hmm. With now more search, some of these cards are significantly more searchable than others.
Oh, like set 7 for sure.
Set
Those
7 cards are very searchable.
they both had 1 drop, so I can just search them.
So who wants to talk about the mistakes the Bandai made?
Oh, dibs. Son Goku Apex. This is our probably most locked deck because Invoker.
I mean, I would argue, yeah, I would say other than a Son Goku Jr., it is the most locked secret rare in the game.
Yeah, because he's still in the Universe 7 later.
And even some others like were weird. You could play them in like Gogeta ramp and just like play them because you had 8 energy or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And it had Victory Strike tag, so it's already automatically super strong at that point. It then just turns off effects. And then Celzino is a mistake. He is actually an unspeakable abomination. He was to push the successor keyword that Yellow Green has of having 12 energy on board on your battle cards. They just didn't realize.
The time,
yeah.
At the time, it was not fair, still broken, but it was a lot harder to get to 12 then. It was easy still, but it was still harder.
Are better than they should be, I think. There'd be slight
Yeah, I think these cards specifically set a new standard for people about what a secret rare has to do in a deck. Black Smoke is kind of that last vein, and it's in line with Baby Hachiyak, where it probably didn't win you the game that turn, but it put you in such a good spot that you couldn't lose the game, and then you would just win the next turn.
Yeah.
Black Smoke, yeah.
Black Smoke plus Fu Shrouded is a absolute classic timeless combo. Turn 5 into turn 6.
Yeah, Black Smoke was just like super. It's just because it was so versatile in its effects. They had 3 different effects that did 3 really good things.
And it could be run in multicolored decks.
Yeah,
literally, Tricolor Surgeku still ran Black Smoke Dragon.
I feel bad for Overwhelm, like this whole block, because you still couldn't even run this because you need cards in drop. You still have the bombs, but
Demigra and balls, and then like
the Migra Storm. Yeah.
There were other things that Black was holding on to, and Black Smoke Dragon was pretty clearly Black Smoke Dragon and the balls were clearly black cards that are supposed to be generic. The way they intended Black to be kind of from the start.
Yeah.
It was supposed to be black and a color.
They're not black in the sense of being like for a black type of deck. They're more like they're supposed to be colorless.
Yep.
Exactly. Because that 3 there introduces like, hey, splash these in with your cards, and even the black leaders back then needed you to have colored cards. Yep. So Black Smoke is your you just would run Black Smoke. The game slowed down enough where you could get to be running Black Smoke or any of these cards basically. Black Smoke could, like, at worst it drew you like what, 3 cards?
Black Smoke, it either drew you 2, but more likely you warped 4 out of your opponent's hand.
Oh yeah, it's just straight advantage playing it. It can't swing, but you got a huge advantage.
And it was an active main, so you could use it each turn.
Yeah,
if your opponent didn't clear it.
Apex wins you the game as Invoker, even though they already had like an instant win combo. And
But at
then
the time, you do have to remember that during Set 9's play, the top Invoker versions were not burn based. They were based in Gogeta 7 fusing over good Gokus and Vegetas, and then
that's right.
also playing Apex of Power.
That is right. And then Cell Xeno, as we said, is a mistake because it was just a free successor, which was pushing it too far. I think if it wasn't free, and
Yeah,
because it's free, and the way successor works with mono green, mono yellow, or yellow green, it is
and it's
now
that
run.
or.
Yeah, so
It's that
now
or.
it's the secret rare to pick for mono green and mono yellow decks.
So
Which
2/5 of the game's colors are represented by Xenocell in just about every build with those 2 colors.
we also see the same problem with the super combos introduced in set 9, the multicolor ones at 0 1 10Ks, where you just have to have your leader match one of the colors, and Zamasu super combo is absurd. It just stops 2 attacks.
So Josh, I think, is someone who has pulled Celzino.
Yeah.
And did you pull Victory Strike as well?
Apex, no.
No, but you pulled Vegeta.
Yeah, so the last 2 pre-releases for sets 7, 8, and 9, I pulled Celzino, SS4 Vegeta, and Parapatora.
Oh shit, you're right.
They were all pre-release.
Where are you for you coming for set 11, right?
Yeah, what am I gonna get?
Vegito.
That's what I was thinking too, actually. You can run it in your Vegito deck.
There we go.
This is really a point where players and myself and everyone who played these decks got spoiled.
Yeah.
We thought that if a secret rare hit the board, it should win you the game, because when you look at all of the cards on this screen, that's what they did. They were generic SCRs, aside from negative energy balls, that if you activated their effect or played them, you win.
None of the other ones really done that. Like they won more.
There were situation times where that happened, but these are so out of nowhere. And that is, I think, the big key. Broly takes setup, Gogeta and the Evolves and the Vegito and Victory Strike and Swap
Yeah,
Boy.
you're
Even
working towards getting
Demigra
them.
they have a thing that has to be done. Black Smoke Dragon is the only one on this page that's like, and I guess Victory Strike, but Victory Strike happens naturally in the deck where it's like, hey, discard your extra cards or play them.
Yeah.
And then it just happens naturally. So the way that at this point in the game, especially now that once Set 9 comes out and we have a meta that is established with, I mean, all of these color combinations were within the meta still to some extent, because we saw Broly Surge was still playable. Surge Coup could play Power Patara, Baby Janemba, Black Smoke Dragon, or even Cell Surge or Cell Xeno if you were crazy.
Lots of options.
Piccolo played either Power Patara or SS4 Vegeta. Invoker ran Apex of Power, and then the black decks that were around at the time was that Boo, Hachiak. Hachiak would play Black Smoke, and the Boo deck would play Negative Energy Balls because it was a hyper aggro deck. So every one of these cards saw play and a deck list spot at a top level competitive event, and it was not only good in their deck, but it was a keystone to their strategy of how they threatened their opponent to not do something. Power Patara said, you can't swing that much. Scramble said, you can't go to 2 or 3. Janemba said, you can't go to 3, and if I do, you can't let me establish a board. Vegeta, I mean, gosh, if this card didn't get Champa, it just won you the game. Black Smoke, gotta be careful. That was just like the weird one. You had to have an answer for it instantly. Celzino still has no answers, really.
Cell Xeno, the
UI,
fact if
I
it's
guess.
turn 5, you just lose. And
Like Champa and UI are like the only cards that quote unquote stop it, but then they just play it again the next turn because it's so easy to establish 12 now.
Yeah.
The big
And then
difference these 8 cards versus the previous 10 was just their usability and versatility in top tier decks.
I think the top deck of it was so big too.
Yeah, they
You could
just went out of
literally
nowhere.
you
Yeah.
could be in a losing situation and then play these cards, and then your opponent goes, "Wait, what?"
It's like, cool.
And then you
Are we
just
on turn 5? Okay, neat.
like I as someone who has played I can't tell you how many times, like even when people are swinging into me for game as Broly as like double or triple strike, and I drew scramble off of like a leader awaken or whatever, and then I just accidentally won the game while they were trying to kill me, is absurd.
Yeah.
Vegeta stopped any attack. Like Power Patara, you just top decked it, and it was a triple strike that drew you 4 cards, and you're getting a grindy game. You're fighting it out with like 4 cards in hand apiece, and all of a sudden you go to 8 and you can't lose.
Yep. I think, like, do we point out with Celzino that you could just he's also can be played super early?
We didn't even talk about that.
Like, I haven't the times when I lost to Cell or even got played against Cell, the majority of them were before turn 5. Actually, just happened to be the games that I played people against was like that hyper aggro ones where people played in like turn 2 or turn 3.
Yeah.
Which is just insane.
Who would have thought double strike? I don't know. He didn't have the dual attack, but quadruple strike 40k with deflect, like at any point of the game, if you let them establish a board, it's just like, what do you do? Hopefully you have all your negates.
Well, you have to have a bunch, and then they rip at random.
Oh, before turn 5.
Yeah.
Because I think he wins more before turn 5 than he does on turn 5, probably nowadays, or the way he's been seen play.
Good card.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I probably got to run. It's kind of the end of the main ones here. I know we're about to flip into the last slide here.
Yeah, we can take it from here. This
Yeah.
you've been on a break since here anyways because COVID. So the COVID hit basically, and it's hard to tell exactly how these are in the meta at this point.
Yeah.
But we greatly appreciate the insight, especially set 2 through 5. You literally played 2 of those decks at a top competitive level.
Yeah.
Cool.
So,
Thanks, Josh.
you're welcome. Good to see you guys.
Any final insights as to what you think Bandai's philosophy for secret rare should be going for? Which type of secret rares, if you will, do you prefer, or do you think should be the game's memento? Overrealm. I guess basically which block is the best. What should their philosophy be?
I mean, maybe it's just because I'm more OG and I like stuff, but I liked secret rares that helped a particular deck archetype. But if they're gonna have ones that are more generic, I kind of like having both. But the generic ones can't all be like Celzino. They can't all be if they're gonna be generic and fit in somewhere. They can't be too overpowered. Either just have one that fits in with an archetype, like the new Broly, for example, the new red one. Like I think that's just a great card because it's really, really good, but it's only really, really good in a couple of decks. And I think that that's fair.
So would you say that maybe the big issue is that not only did the cards get more generic, but they also got more powerful?
Yeah, at the same time, and that was a problem.
I can agree with that.
That is a new perspective. I appreciate that's that's good.
It should be one or the other, not both. Because that's where power creep becomes an issue. You know, like
because now why there's so many green secret rares that are insane.
Yeah, green.
But why
I think
would you
green
ever?
has the most, right?
If not the most, it has certainly the most impactful. I think
Yeah.
red and blue are also pretty far up there now. Or red and yellow, sorry. Or not red and yellow. Oh my gosh,
yellow.
red and black.
Yeah.
Red and black.
Yellow
Can't
has like
think.
2.
those are my thoughts. I'll let you guys go. Now you can finish it off. But
Cool.
good chat.
Thanks, Josh.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
We'll see you later.
Yeah,
We'll continue
I just want to
on.
add real quick, like, I think with the blocks, like we started very archetype focused or deck focused, and then into this block it went because of how multicolor is, they went color focused.
They wanted it to be wide open. They wanted you to have creativity in which cards you ran in your decks. Because if you had red yellow, you all of a sudden had access to 2 whole color card pools.
Yep. And then
And then we ruined it by making all the decks tricolor.
yeah, that surge is a whole nother problem. That's like a whole nother thing. All right, set 10, or not set 10, I guess Universe Warrior block. Union Warrior block. There we go. Unison Warrior. So we're back to monocolor. Still 3 and 2 per case.
So we see a couple different pieces here. First, I'd like to talk about Gogeta and its relationship with balls and Black Smoke Dragon.
Yeah.
The negative energy balls and Black Smoke Dragon served different purposes because, and Gogeta now, this is, I think, the perfect trifecta of Black Secret Rares. If they stop printing Black Secret Rares for a couple sets, we're good to go. Unless they want to print like an archetype one like Demigra.
Mm-hmm.
We got a planned defensive one with the negative energy balls. We got a win more card with Black Smoke Dragon / setup card.
Value.
And
I think just plain value.
Value card is a good way to put it. And multiple win cons, ripping cards out of hands, milling 7, warping the board.
Mm-hmm.
It's versatile, and it's versatile, probably the most versatile card in the game.
Yes.
Anyway, and then Gogeta is a play this, win the game card. We now have all 3 of those as a black card, and the only stipulation is that you generally don't want to play Overrealm, and you generally need to charge the same energy for Gogeta.
Yep, exactly.
So this creates a very good dynamic, and I think all of these cards are very powerful, but they are not individually broken. I certainly overhyped Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta initially, and over time its flaws are shown, particularly yellow, really very devastating color to it.
Which is
given
funny.
How
Which is funny because on I think on preview everyone hated it for some reason.
A lot of people were really not high on it, but then others were like, "Wow, this is insane." But I think, much like most of life, the answer is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, 3 energy for a +6 is I think it's the highest density we've ever seen of a plus. Yep. Like there's like theory pluses where like, oh well, scramble is a +90 because your opponent can't combo, and so it effectively dead card 6 cards in their hand.
And I think on a 1 card thing too. It's a 1 card +6.
And then and there's basically no counterplays to it because it's on the active main. And there's very little outs to it other than just hard negating it turn over turn. And if you have a board established already, it's hard to beat. Mm-hmm. So this, I think, is where Bandai really probably peaked in terms of their design, was Black Smoke, balls, and Gogeta. In all fairness, Gogeta's permanent is really harsh, so I am okay with the +6. And then Black Smoke is maybe just a tad too strong, but we also just got introduced to whole new set of counterplays that all hit Black Smoke in some sense other than
because he goes down to a 5.
He goes down to 5, so there's quite a few responses to it, as well as Trunks. Your opponent basically, you just can't play it against blue. Your opponent's going to tap 5, and then
you got to bait out those Trunks or have a way to get rid of counterplay for the turn. But anyways, back to monocolors. Are you done with Gogeta? I'm sorry.
I think so.
I think that's it. Because he's
still good job on black.
Yeah, he's still like, you have to be charging the same color energy, so you're not running mixed color decks for mono. So basically pushing the monocolors back into power, unless you're running all the same multicolor, which is very hard and not as likely by turn 5, except maybe blue green.
And then we have these other 2, and one of them is super generic for its color with a Vegeta type effect where it has a win the game offensive effect and a hyper defensive combo effect. But we have this really weird one with Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks. And it wants yellow cards that are 15k power to be in the drop area.
And he becomes a 4, so that he breaks the
mold
of
get reduced.
Yeah, he breaks the mold of 5. because everything usually discounted 2.5.
Hmm.
Besides Celzino, who we said was spoiled. Um, Double
But I will
Strike
say,
and
yeah, I think this card is one of the best designed cards
I agree.
from their game point. It has it requires you to not build a deck around it, but you have to purposefully include cards that have that 15k moniker to be able to play this card effectively. In addition, there are obvious weak points. If your opponent plays Meki Kapora, they can kill it. If your opponent is playing a leader skill that just blows up battle cards, it did nothing except for cost 4 energy.
Well, even then, it has a stipulation if 1/8 gets blown up.
That is what I was going to get to, is that it has two pieces that are really specific to yellow that work so well with the color that it is in without being too powerful. It is a skill drain for all other battle cards. Very good, normally broken, but it's a singleton and it's a stipulation card. Like we said, right? You have to reduce, you have to do whatever.
Mhm.
And then if they blow it up, blows up all cards in rest mode. Something yellow has done in the past, just not to the same length.
I think this is like where they should be aiming for because it
I will say
doesn't.
I think this card either needs critical or it needs triple strike rather than double strike. I
Right,
think in terms of power level, it is just a tad weaker than they need it to be without too much weaker. Because
but
if they gave it
design
quad
though,
strike, yes.
because the archetype that it's kind of meant for, like quote archetype it's played in, is that it is the fusion of the Gotenks Adolescent deck. This is a Gotenks card. He is a Gotenks Adolescence. They're all 15k like Union Fusion material.
Hmm.
So I think that's what it is meant for. So, like it's meant like you can play it in the archetype, but also outside of its own archetype too. If you're just running a bunch of 15ks in a yellow deck.
It's I agree. That's a really good way to point. It's pointed to an archetype without being explicitly required
And
to
locked
be that
into it.
archetype.
Yeah, like how the Overrealm block was. It's like a
Hmm.
good mix of the Overrealm and the Infinite Unity where it's still with the color, locked in the color because you still need four
And the
specific yellow.
themes of that color too.
Exactly. Uh,
Um,
Great Ape. I think green just needed like its own.
its own card that could call the best generic. Because Broly, you still had to have a way to do it. So a low to the ground one, a low to the ground deck, or a deck that couldn't afford the space for Paragus plus Broly, or rather,
Yeah,
some way
Paragus
to remove
plus 7 drop. Because only like there was no real good 7 drops that
at
got cheated
least
out outside of
in the
Broly
time.
and Hyper Evolve. I think the other one I saw play was the SS2 Gohan because of the anniversary 2019,
Yep, and then Kaioken
and then
because it doesn't
Kaioken because red
specify
green.
mono green.
That's right.
But this card, I as I personally believe this is maybe like a top 3 SCR, maybe top 5. We were so spoiled by Celzino and Apex of Power, but Apex of Power in particular, once Invoker is no longer relevant, it is not there anymore because that's like the only super archetype locked one in Infinite Unity. So we see this card that is got one thing that green is really good at, removal,
Yeah,
and then it's also got this activate main that is just the kind of thing that a secret rare should be. It's literally just big number attached to a big skill. It's not necessarily the most versatile card in the world in terms of what it does. It's not Power Batara. It doesn't tap and draw and then also a body. It's just, can you get over 2 attacks of 40k triple strike? Can you do that? That's all it's asking.
he's also the only secret rare never dead in your hand, unless you're
Yeah.
tapped out.
But like, if you're, I don't know, be good. Be a good player.
Yeah. He basically like green lacks like big defense, and this is like its best defense in the form of removal. It was great. The only thing, my
Agree.
big thing I don't like about this is that he doesn't fit. I guess because it's supposed to be the super generic, but like,
Green one.
why we have Mass Saiyan as a green card? It's just like, what? Why?
Yeah,
But that's it. That's not gameplay related at all.
yeah. Which honestly, set 10 had some really good ones, but Ape will just never have the price it deserves because Salzino is still too playable. And then Go Tanks will also never see the price it deserves because Salzino is too playable.
Yeah, because they're yellow and green.
And then the black ones are just generally Go Tanks is not quite on the same power level as running Black Smoke or Gogeta, so it's not quite worth it. But again, that's where I think like if it had just been given Triple Strike or Double Strike Crit instead, it would have been on that level.
Yep, I can see
Um,
that.
this is where we'd go to set 11. So in the description, I'm sure Dom will be able to link our most recent discussion, or if anyone is listening at this point, we've been rambling for like
2 hours.
three, I think, at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Well, because the card reviews were like an hour or almost like 45 minutes to an hour, and
Yeah, yeah,
then
yeah.
secret rares are a long time because it's discussion, it's history,
It's,
it's
we basically went through the whole history of DBS from set 2.
yeah. Um, this is almost where I think the secret rare design should be. We now have at our disposal all of these, and I think Bandai has almost covered its bases. I think what is going to be important is that cards can be generic because every green deck, if your energy is or if your leader is mono green, right, you just grab the ape and you move on your merry way. If you're playing a multicolored deck, you go grab one of those secret rares that are
Unity.
multicolors,
Hmm.
infinite unities, and you grab them, except for red, blue. Thanks, Bandai. I know Apex Power is cute, but like it's only playable in exactly Invoker.
I mean, red blue,
Um,
it's only Invoker. Frieza Clan didn't get as much as it needed.
I mean, just cooler. And then red, blue is a very powerful color combo in general because it's aggro plus
Yeah,
cards. It's an
beam.
enabler color.
Yeah.
Um, but we're now at that point where green and red and black all have go-to immediate colors or immediate super combos, and then blue has kind of adopted Gogeta as a blue card, basically. Um, and so I think we are going to get to the point where all we need to see from the game at this point is one generic, like more generic yellow one that is a little bit weaker in power than Gotenks, and a generic blue one that is a little better at winning the game than Hachiyak. The design philosophy behind Hachiyak is great. The practicality is the color just doesn't need it right now.
Until they fix, like we said in the set 11 secret rare video, blue just has a bunch of other things they have to fix first before.
Before Hachiyak becomes the primary
Yeah.
color.
Or else like a strategy comes out where you just like need that big defense guy.
And so here's where I'm at and what the takeaway I think should be for this entire video. And we can maybe even make upload just this portion as a separate piece.
Clip it.
Is secret rares are really close to being finished. Bandai has almost printed a secret rare in every color that is generic, that is powerful. And so what I would like to see from Bandai is to see every color get a card that is similar to Gotenks, Great Ape, and Frieza Army Reborn, as well as I would like to see a new red-blue secret rare that is slightly more generic. And then I would like to see secret rares that are like SS Broly from now on.
Just archetypical or deck focus.
Where, well, it's not necessarily archetypal, but it's really close.
Right.
Where it is bolstered by playing that, or it, like Broly is kind of the edge case where it pushes into the archetype because there are so few targets for it. But this set 6 Broly is another example. I am fine if those are the kind of secret rares they print from now on.
Yeah.
Maybe you give up 5 deck spots to be able to run this secret rare.
And then once power creeps in like it does,
Do it
redo the
again.
generic ones. I am totally down for that. long as we
I
stay
think
away
that
from the set 9, I think was the peak of power, and we're coming back down because
peak of primitive power.
yeah,
Set 8.
haha, haha.
That was a set 8 card. Hold on.
Yeah,
Anyway,
set 9 was just too much at once, and COVID we didn't really get like to play around with it too much, I guess, so we couldn't find like ways around it.
mm-hmm.
I
And
also kind of think, I guess because we've been testing set 11 a little bit, and do you run Xenocell with the Gotenks, right? That's why we've been talking about it a lot.
It's so ridiculous.
Because I kind of
the 12 is getting easier and easier, and every set from now on, it is going to get easier, and it is still going to be the strongest in that color.
Yeah,
Or those colors.
I agree. And until testing with Vegito and AOD, I could maybe see some swapping, depending on how the testing goes. I'm still not like Xenocell just it steals games because infinite unity block.
Strike.
Yeah, infinite unity block because those cards just drop down without setup. These cards
That I
all
think is
need
the
setup.
well, except for Great Ape and Gogeta, but they have more counterplay than the previous ones did.
Exactly.
Great Ape now, right? One, we're in a counterplay centric meta where cards are different points. So, right, Frieza doesn't hit these. Trunks is the only one that really hits these. But if you Trunks back Gogeta to your hand or Hachiek to your hand,
Yeah, that's bad. Don't do that.
I guess.
Try not to do that.
Really, guys, please don't do that. So I think that's where we really need to go is just get like I think it's like two maybe 3 sets, and we'd be in such a good position for where we're at for secret rares. The heavy archetypes were mistakes, in my opinion. You can have them every once in a while, but they do create problems that when like when Apex is good, it is the best secret rare in the game, basically, besides Elzino. But if they never print another red Saiyan again that's 35k, Broly's gonna be like a $20 to $30 secret rare, especially given that Bandai is becoming more lenient with pull rates. And I would not be shocked to see secret rares eventually become if you buy a case, you are guaranteed all 3. But I think
That's what I thought at first.
the strategy they're going with now seems to be fine, where they're doing a black card plus 2 cards. But we are going to see a problem. They will have too many black SCRs and too many generic options where the monocolor will stop being the best option, because eventually your deck will just have a better option when there's more options in black.
Right. We gotta assume multicolor will come back eventually. Monocolor decks aren't just gonna be the thing. We had tricolor decks. I think they might push for it at one point, probably.
Mhm.
Like, game still has a lot of room. Game will still evolve. I feel like this game has a lot of room to evolve into more things, and we'll see. Like, also that can be another discussion we can do. Is we're at that point where Magic decided to do block formatting, and I think Naruto, an old Bandai
Naruto
game.
did it. They did it like right away though. They were
Oh yeah.
I think like set 10 was
Yep.
when they announced the first
Yeah.
one.
Set 10.
But
That's when Magic
they
did it.
they didn't have theme boosters and draft boxes.
Fair.
So really Dragon Ball, and they had the COVID push. Dragon Ball is realistically at about and the sets are larger. So at this point Dragon Ball is at probably like set 16 to 18 of a quote unquote normal game.
Yeah, but this is still around the time, like the 2-year point where Magic decided, or 3, yeah. Magic decided to do the blocks. So we will see. We're at a good.
I think what will help against that case will solely be that Dragon Ball is an IP that, one, is really popular, but 2, the cards all are balanced around the fact that they have certain names or traits.
Yep.
And Bandai's really generally been quite careful with that. So I
Why
think
Baby doesn't have the Hatchiyak name here.
yeah, and I think if you do that, then you basically just like irrelevate some people's favorite characters because there are so many characters in Dragon Ball. Android 13, for some reason, is somebody's favorite villain
Right.
in all of Dragon Ball.
And that's
But if you
where
literally make a block format, that person can never play Android 13 in
like standard.
non-unlimited. And even in unlimited, then the power creep in unlimited is generally quite higher than standard.
But then
So,
they can
so
just reintroduce a Android 13 line with different effects and stuff.
but then they have to. There are too many characters to do that all the time. Yeah, Broly and Zamasu have gotten a lot of love, especially Broly, but like they haven't even gotten to TN yet.
Oh yeah.
We have no Chaozu cards. We are just now getting Shadow Dragons.
We have two. One where he blows himself up.
And another where he blows himself up. And the others are all blockers.
Yeah. So yeah, okay. Fair enough.
But we're gonna go ahead and keep on track with Secret Rares. Bandai has done a pretty good job for the Unison Warrior block. I'm excited to see where they go from here. I think all of these Secret Rares are highly playable, but not broken.
Kind of interested to see set 12 because now we have every color.
Mm-hmm.
What's set 12
So
going to be?
set 12 could be the
There.
reintroduction of multicolors, or
All
I
black.
think what is more likely is, yeah, either we get all black or they go back and just go, well, which two colors have the least, and they print us a yellow and a blue one.
Yeah. Because it has confirmed GTS distribution site has info. 3 Secret Rares
What?
again. GTSdistribution.com or whatever. Just Google it. On set 12. All the info's in the public. So.
Cool.
All right. I think
don't even-
I think that's it. Or else we're just starting to be the Midwest rambling again.
We rambling.
I think you said the same thing twice now.
Yeah,
So-
we're at 2 viewers. we can go ahead.
It's
and
getting late for us,
here.
so it's been North Star Ball. Thanks for another one of our TED Talks.
Please
this
try
time-
to listen to the whole thing if you can, if you're just interested in the history of the game. Some input and perspective from a legacy player, a midpoint player, and a fairly new player, that all have different takes on what it means to play Dragon Ball Super.
Cool. See you guys later.